Hi folks, welcome back to English 246 Creative Writing. I'm Dr. Barry. As you know, in this workshop, this video will be entitled Jailbreak, the Escape Artist's Guide to Breaking Out of Writer's Block. We've all been there. It's happened to all of us, and it sucks. But here's how to get through it. And this is based on my creative writing workshop that I sometimes conduct for various and sundry writing conferences. Writer's block is kind of like a prison where you're locked away from your words and your creativity, and there's nothing you can do but sit around and think about what you've done when you could write. Here's what you need to know. It's all in your head. Every last bit of it. Your inspiration, your ability, they're both inside you. They're two sides of the same coin, yin and yang. Okay? One coin, two sides. Okay? And because it's inside you, you have the keys to free yourself from the cell that you're trapped in, namely your head. Kim Adenizio and Dorian Lowe, in their book on writing, argue that writer's block doesn't really exist. They say that you can always write. I tend to agree. Typically, there are four basic causes of writer's block. First cause, and maybe the biggest, your ego. Yep. We all want to write something great. We all want to write the next great American novel or the great American poem, the thing that will drive our readers and influence people and make the bestseller list and perhaps even, dare I say it, be in the literary, wind up in one of these cool literary anthologies to be studied by other young budding writers as time goes by. We all want to write something great. We want to shake the foundations of the world with our poetry or our fiction or our prose, our creative nonfiction. To entertain, certainly, but to teach and to amaze. In short, we want to create high art. And that just can't happen every time. Yeah, sorry. It's just not possible, especially not on the first draft. If you're anything like me, you have reams of poetry that will never see the light of day. Nobody's going to see it, and nobody has to, because it's a work in progress. Sometimes progress ends nowhere, and that's okay too. It's all right. Anne Lamott, in her book, Bird by Bird, said, give yourself permission to write, and forgive the term, shitty first drafts. Yeah. Tell that inner voice in your head it's okay to write badly now and again. You get all the bad stuff out of the way. That way you can get to the good stuff. It's okay to write badly, right? I repeated that for a reason. I'm going to say it one more time. It's okay to write badly. Nobody else has to see it or cares to. Much like the Pope, you can have all your papers burned when you die. That way nobody ever sees what you wrote when you're dead and gone. Your rough drafts will be off in the ether. It's perfect, right? Back in the late 90s to 2000s, I was a regular in a poetry chat room on America Online. Long story for you millennials. Poet's Place is what it was called. And there was a room where it was a room that was ridiculously hostile. It was the infancy of cyberbullying, and being a noob, I wasn't ready for it. It was kind of like a group of mountain climbers scaling a mountain. The experienced poets were the lead climbers, and the new poets were the inexperienced climbers on the back. And once the experienced climbers reached the top, they would turn around, cut the rope, and throw rocks at the rest of us struggling to get to the summit. These things that these poets said sometimes get stuck in my head. The insults, the discouragement, all that got stuck in here for about 4 years. And every time I would sit down to write a poem, I'd hear their words in my head. Burn it and stir the ashes. You call this poetry, and much worse. When I put the pen down and I walk away. Done. In your head, you probably hear much the same thing. Right? Little voice, louder and louder, drowning out what you want to write or what you would write because they demand a standard that you cannot possibly meet. And you know what? No one can meet that standard on a first draft. Nobody has a good first draft, save for the delusional. Okay. Thing is, these voices are confined to your head. If they were in the room, you could grab them by the lapels and toss them out of your house, right? Yeah. Why not picture that? Just in your mind. Mind, of course, grab that voice by the lapels and toss it out of your head. Or grab it by the collar on the seat of the pants and toss it right out. Or picture that voice as a person with a big volume knob on his or her chest. And then walk over and to the voice and turn it up as loud as it'll go. And then turn it all the way down and rip it off. Now the room is quiet. And that pesky voice won't bother you anymore. Get to writing. Okay, so you can write whatever you want to on the first draft. I tell my comp students, First draft is get to know you draft. You don't know what you want to say until you're going to say it. You put it down on paper. You know what Flannery O'Connor said? How do I know what I'm going to say until I say it? Isn't that cool? Just write. Nobody else has to see it, just you. Now, there are a few strategies for just getting the words on paper, but one of the best is a free write. In the free write, you write down everything that comes into your mind. Put your pen to paper and write until you run out of words. Don't delete anything. What you had for lunch, what you want to do later, what you think about, the designated hitter rule for that matter. Literally anything that comes to your mind. Let your thoughts flow and wander. And once you're done, cut out anything that doesn't fit your work, even if it's only a word or two. That's a word or two more than you had when you started. Congratulations, you've written. Something came out on the page. Don't worry, nobody will see the rest. So now, exercise 1. Okay. Take a sheet of paper and pad. Write down everything that comes into your head until you run out of words or inspiration. Give yourself the freedom to write badly or write anything at all. Take 10 minutes and do this. You can pause the video. I'll be here when you get back. Okay, I'm going to presume that 10 minutes have passed and just get started again. If it hasn't passed, pause the video. Second cause, I've lost my voice. I call it authorial laryngitis. Well, we've all had it one time or another, right? I've lost my voice. I can't think of anything to say. Well, that's easily fixed. Almost as easy as a free write. Ready? Write as someone else. Sure, why not? You having trouble with your voice? Then use somebody else's. This will boost your imagination, your powers of creativity. Most importantly, it'll grant you a different perspective. Try writing your poem from the point of view of an inanimate object. Tom Robbins once wrote a book whose protagonist was a dented soup can. If you can pull it off, you sure can. I once wrote a poem from the perspective of read a poem from the perspective of a dead Civil War soldier. It was incredibly moving. Now, don't let the old adage, write what you know, slow you down. Write what you know doesn't mean writing facts and figures. That would be boring. You're not writing a history text here. You're not doing tech writing. You're creating art. You can write what you want to know, what you know, without writing from firsthand experience. Writing what you know is about writing what is what you know to be true and right. I had a poem published about coping with the death of my wife once. I'm not married, never have been, but I do understand grieving and loss and the process that one goes through. Anyone who's made it into their teens and beyond dies. When it comes to poetry, the vehicle in which you communicate truth can be a lie. What's really important is the underlying truth. Yeah. Try writing as a bird or as a cat or a rhinoceros. Try writing as someone famous or as your younger self, viewing the world for the first time. If you're feeling daring, write as a Greek god and see what you come up with. What kinds of things would you see? What would be your thoughts? What would be your opinion of the wider world? Pour all these things into your poem, and remember, your voice is acting up, so don't speak as you. Speak as someone else. When your own voice comes back, take it up again. For now, focus on writing as someone or something else. You'll be surprised at the results. Now, time for you to apply that strategy. Take 10 minutes, write like somebody else. I'll wait. Okay, so how'd that go? Good? I hope so. All right. Third cause. I'm just not inspired. Nothing is coming to me. See, this is the part where it gets a little tricky. Sometimes we run out of things to write about because your inspiration has dried up. Well, time to go do something about it. And I don't mean write. No. Henry David Thoreau said, "How vain it is to sit down to write when you've not stood up to live." There you go. Get out there and live. I don't mean quit your job, hitchhike across America, or have a wild, ill-conceived romance, or buy a motorcycle, or anything like that. No. Don't do anything to jeopardize your current life, but do go out and try something new. Climb a mountain, go to an art museum, go do something you've never done before. Live your life. Inspiration comes from experience. Just like making good choices comes from experience, and experience comes from making bad choices. Yeah. But seriously, take a trip somewhere you've never been. Garner a new experience. Meet someone new and talk to them. Then come back to your writing desk, sit down, and write about what you've learned. Just don't do it right now. I mean, yeah, the other things we can do in 10 minutes. That takes a little more time. Plan for the weekend. Okay. Fourth cause, frustration. Oh boy. Every time I sit down to write, nothing really worthwhile comes out. I'm dry on ideas. I don't really think I'm getting anywhere. Not a problem. Find yourself a poem you like and write a response to it. This is a formula that worked great for Sir Walter Raleigh, who wrote a response to Christopher Marlowe's The Passionate Shepherd to His Love. It's biting satire of Marlowe's works. And if you're frustrated with your own work, then you can react to someone else's. If you got a poet in mind who needs taken down a notch or two, this is the ideal exercise for you. Right? Come on, you've all read poetry. I mean, if you've read poetry lately, there are some people out there in print who need a little trip to the woodshed. Tell them what you think about them. Imitate their form in your response, because here's the thing. You are trying on someone else's style when you're writing a response. Right? You're getting out of your comfort zone, and you're doing something new while you're giving them what for about the content of their work. You're imitating their style, and you're working within their form. In doing that, you're adding to your experience and putting more arrows in your quiver. Now, do this. Go find a poem you'd like to do a takedown of. Pick one out and respond. Take about 10, 15 minutes or longer. I believe this is the end of my handout. Yeah. Take about 10 minutes. There's a little more beyond this. There's a fifth cause. All right, but do that. And if you have to be looking at the handout on Blackboard, you can choose one of the poems from here. Go ahead, I'll wait. Yeah. Okay, good. All right, cause number 5, fifth cause. Just can't find the words. Okay, this is one of my favorites. If you can't find the words, then borrow some. Yeah, simple. I don't mean go over to your neighbor's house and say, "Hey, can I borrow a couple words?" But you get the idea. You know, the guy who invented the magnetic poetry kit was a songwriter who was suffering from writer's block. Yeah, cut words out of the newspaper, glued them to magnets, stuck them on the fridge or a piece of metal. Voila. Years back when I first started the Limestone Dust Poetry here in Huntsville, we had several easels around the place with metal chairs and with magnetic poetry kits on them. We wanted people to just not only participate in the festival as fans of poetry, but also to become poets themselves. Yeah. The combinations they came up with are amazing. Yeah. And it didn't take a lot of effort, just a few choices. And it was fun. Remember when poetry was fun? Yeah, it can be again. Sure. In the movie, The Next Karate Kid, there was a scene where Mr. Miyagi takes his new charge to an ashram. And they spend a time with a group of Buddhist monks. And at one point, a student is practicing their forms to music. And the monk comes out to where she is. She quickly apologizes and turns off the radio, only to have the monk switch it back on and begin dancing. She questions Mr. Miyagi, who replies simply, Never trust holy man who doesn't dance. In the same way, never trust a poet who doesn't play. Poetry is about having fun with words on one of the many levels, but if you're not having fun with it, why bother? Right? It's as much about fun as it is about creating art. Give yourself permission to have fun. Don't have the words? No problem. Break out the poetry kit, use someone else's. What else will you do? What this will, I'm sorry, what this will do is get you into thinking in new and unusual ways. Your options are now suddenly limited, so you have to work with what you have in front of you. You'll create new combinations that you wouldn't even consider before, like the poet at the Limestone Dust Poetry Festival who created the phrase bleed corduroy. Once you learn to work within the confines of the words you're given, you'll find a way to think about words and combination of words in a different way. In short, you'll start to play. You'll also experiment in new and enjoyable ways and come up with new works that you might never have come up with before. Now, if you have one handy, take about 10 minutes and play around with your magnetic poetry kit and see what combinations of words you come up with. Don't have one? That's all right. Go ahead and just snag some words from at random. Look around the room, write down the various words and names of things. Or open a magazine or a book and just pull random words out of it. Yeah. And see what you can come up with the combinations. Take about 10 minutes. Again, I'll wait. Yeah. Okay, that's good. And if it's not good, pause the video at this point. Yeah, okay. So, takeaways, what you should know from this workshop. The writer's block is all in your head. That's number one. Writer's block is all in your head, right around where your creativity center is. Therefore, you have everything you need to overcome it right here in your head. 2, nothing wrong with writing a bad draft. Nobody else has to see it but you. 3, if your voice doesn't work, borrow someone else's. You're a creative writer. Create a character and write like that character, what that character would say. Right? Number 4, when you don't have any words, borrow someone else's. Yeah, nothing wrong with a little wordplay. Magnetic Poetry Kit or Talking Back to Poetry or some such is A-OK. 5, and this is most important, have fun. It's supposed to be enjoyable. We're writing for the enjoyment of others on some level. We're writing because, of course, we can't help but write. We are driven. We are pushed to write. Otherwise, we'd be doing something else, long division or whatever. Have fun with it. You can work through writer's block. Just alter your regular pattern of writing. Looking at the world in a different way will yield different results for your writing, and you can get back to where you want to be. Who knows? Might even take you somewhere new. All right. Well, that's it for me. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.